It's one of the most difficult things about trying to make sure that everybody gets the benefit of knowledge, only to discover that the criterias are so different. As an example, a manifestor or a generator doesn't need to have any intellectual involvement with human design to successfully be able to live out their strategy. In other words, you just have to give them a few words and say, try it, and they're gone. And because they're energy types, they're going to be able to experience whatever the nature is of that experiment, and they're going to be able to get feedback immediately. But again, that's not the case for non-energy types. Not only that, but it's not simply a matter of being able to tell you your strategy and saying to you, look, you may have to wait a while to see how this works, which is very difficult. Is that in order for a projector to get involved in transforming themselves, the first thing is their intellectual involvement. In terms of design, when I train people and I talk to them about educating people according to type, one of the things that I'm always stressing is that the only way that you can successfully transform a projector is if they make a certain commitment to learning the knowledge. Because without certain clues that you can get from the knowledge, without understanding how you are expected to operate and respond in this life, it is exceedingly difficult for any projector who meets this knowledge to really be able to live out that strategy. They may walk away saying it's interesting, but it doesn't mean that it brings them that reward. You know, they can look back in their life and recognize those moments of invitation that all of you have experienced where you realize the benefits of that. Still, that's not enough. In other words, in order for the projector to awaken, the projector has to have an intellectual involvement, and they have to have an intellectual involvement for a very simple reason. The gift, if you will, the gift of not being a generator and not being a manifester is understanding what it means to have a white or an open center. An open center is a place that can be a place of great confusion and chaos. Now, it's not empty and it's not broken and it doesn't need to be fixed, but it's deeply sensitive to anything coming from the outside. When somebody comes and colors in that sense, a center that you have open, not only do you take in their coloring, but remember, you amplify it. So if you have a open ego and somebody has a colored ego, you end up being a bigger egoist. It gets amplified. All right. Now, the negative conditioning that arrives for everyone through an open center is that because the open center is not consistent, sometimes you have the big ego and sometimes you don't if that center's open. What happens in the psyche is the psyche says there's something wrong with me that I don't have it all the time. I want to be that. And human beings want to be all the things that are white there. They want to be all the things that they're not. Each and every one of you, in your chart, you look at the white centers, and what you're looking at is what you've always wanted to be. This is the inconsistent part. Okay. Now, what happens when you transcend that through awareness is that those centers, rather than being negative conditioning, they're simply conditioning. And in the sense that they're simply conditioning in that all life is, and that because you don't take the negative aspect of it, in other words, you don't want to be the conditioning, you're just aware of the conditioning taking place, these open centers are where you become wise. Wise. Now think about it. You all have an open sacral. All of you. You know, the moment you look at a projector chart, all the sacrals are white. That means that you have the potential to be wise about the way in which generators work. I know, I have a totally open sacral, no gates. Boy, do I know generators. I know this kind of generator, and this kind of generator, and this kind of generator, and this kind of generator. And when you meet somebody that has a center fixed, all they know is the way it's fixed. They don't know the rest of the potential of that center, the various other nuances that are there. Wisdom is through the open centers. But to get to that wisdom, you got to go through the conditioning. So think about who you are. You don't generate and you don't manifest. What does that mean? Your gift is to understand both. In other words, to know how generating works and to know how manifesting works, because ultimately your role is to guide them. You know, my friend on the beach, He would have been a lot better off blowing a whistle and telling everybody else to go run into the damn sea. Because that's really what his job is. Not only that, but for them to bring back some water to cool him down. And for somebody to bring him a drink while he's blowing the whistle and telling them when to go into the sea. And all these generators are getting up and running into the sea on the whistle. And the whistle blows and they all come back out. Instead of all of them baking to death and getting sunburn, and the lone projector running back and forth and exhausting themselves. You're here to be wise about the nature of generating and manifesting. You're not here to be generators and manifestors.